Listen, bro. Beautiful women are never short of men. They have so many that it exhausts them, not the other way around. Every day, their phones buzz non-stop, inboxes overflow with messages, and eyes are on them everywhere they go. Meanwhile, you still think that being nice, texting her sweetly, caring about her day, will make you the chosen one. It won't. That's the sweet illusion many men use to lull themselves to sleep. The truth is, the game is no longer about who's better, but who makes her feel different. Yet most men still follow the same old formula: flirt, compliment, hope for luck. You think you're chasing her, but in reality, you're blending into the crowd of guys doing the exact same thing. You say, "She's so beautiful," and others say it too. You send a coffee invite and hundreds of others do the same. She's not cold because she's arrogant. She's cold because she's tired. According to 2024 data from Hinge and Tinder, the top 10% of most attractive women receive over 90% of all interactions. That means they live in a storm of attention, overwhelmed by choices. A beautiful woman can't reply to everyone, can't care for everyone, and is forced to reject 99% of the men who approach her not out of pride, but because that's the only way to protect her energy. She doesn't hate men, she's just defensive. And while you're trying to prove you're different, she's hearing the exact same words from morning till night. This is the harsh reality everyone knows but refuses to accept in this world. Being nice isn't enough. Knowing how to create value, that's where real attention begins. That's the moment you must understand, bro. A beautiful woman doesn't live in the same world as you. You see her smile, see her photos, see the light around her shining bright, and you think that's peace. But behind every picture, behind every smile, there's an invisible storm. She faces dozens of eyes every day, relentless messages, invitations, stares from both men and women. She can't step outside without being judged. She can't post a single photo without someone commenting. Her life is a continuous state of observation, so her survival instincts have to switch on. You think she's arrogant, but in truth, she's protecting herself. When everyone wants a piece of her, building walls, being selective, and appearing cold, that's the only way to survive. In her world, attention isn't joy anymore, it's a burden. Many call it attractive fatigue, exhaustion caused by one's own beauty. She no longer knows who's sincere, who's just chasing a conquest, and who's there to prove something to himself. Gradually, she becomes suspicious of all good intentions. A kind message gets analysed. A nice gesture makes her wonder, what does he really want? So she learns to choose feelings instead of faces. Every time someone approaches, she doesn't look at looks or words. First, she looks at how that person makes her feel. This fatigue makes her close off not because she wants to be difficult, but because she's afraid of choosing wrong again, of being used, of repeating the same story where she gives trust and ends up hurt. You have to understand, she's not against men, she's just trying to protect a little peace in a storm that never stops. So if you approach her like everyone else saying familiar words, acting overly eager, trying too hard to seem safe, she won't feel anything different. To her, it's just noise. She doesn't need more people to talk to. She needs someone calm enough not to get swept up in the crowd. And that's what 99% of men never understand. That's exactly why, bro, most men who walk into her life end up fading away like smoke. Not because they're bad, but because they're all the same. They show up with the same formula, the same kind of energy, the same way of talking. You think you're different. But the truth is she already heard those exact same words from another guy this morning. And by this afternoon, a few more will probably say the same things again. It's a tiring loop. She doesn't see any difference anymore, because most men today don't truly understand how women feel. They start with a compliment about her looks. You're so beautiful. I've never met anyone as pretty as you. It sounds sincere, but to her, it's copy-paste. Then comes the number request, the coffee invite, then endless check-ins and good morning messages, trying to force a connection through artificial care. But in reality, they're only lowering their own value without realizing it. When you keep proving that you want her, you're draining your own masculine energy. You're no longer a man with a center, you become a man orbiting around her. And once you start orbiting her, the game is over. She knows you'll comply, she knows you'll wait, she knows you won't walk away, and everything becomes predictable, dull, lifeless. That's why, 99% of men fail. They don't lack kindness. They lack the strength to maintain distance. They don't understand that. In Modern Psychology 2025, this is called the validation loop, a cycle of approval. It means men constantly give attention, recognition, and compliments, hoping to receive attention back from women, but the result is the opposite. They turn themselves into fans, followers, admirers instead of men of equal value. Women sense that energy instantly. When you look at them with expectation in your eyes, they know you're seeking validation to feel worthy. And women, especially those who've lived in the storm of attention, can smell that energy from miles away. So they step back, not out of dislike, but because they've seen that energy too many times. The more you try to prove yourself, the more you make her feel she's above you, and that's when your entire frame collapses. Think about it. Bro, how many times have you texted, invested time, tried to make her happy, only to get silence or half-hearted replies? It's not because she's cruel, it's because, in her eyes, you no longer create the feeling of being someone she must keep, because anything that's always there, people stop valuing. And men trapped in this loop don't realize that their lack of composure, their rush to prove themselves, is what makes them lose the most attractive qualities of all mystery, calmness, and the control that defines a real man. Then you start to realize, bro, it's not words that move her, it's not sweet messages or sincere confessions. What she truly feels is energy. She doesn't choose your words, she chooses how she feels when she's around you. When you walk into a room, does she feel calm or tense? When you speak, does your voice sound steady or shaky when you go silent? Does the atmosphere shift? Those are the things women respond to most, not the sentences you craft. Women have a sensitivity that's almost frightening. They read energy. A man who is calm, composed, and unhurried radiates something she can't logically explain, but she can feel it. Meanwhile, the guys who talk too much, compliment too much, try too hard to prove themselves, they drain her interest. Because real energy is never loud, it's quiet. It's that feeling of, I feel light when I'm near him. And that's what defines the top 1% of men. They don't force it. They don't act alpha. They move slowly, speak little, but every gesture carries weight. They have frame, a clear sense of values and boundaries. They don't let a woman's emotions sway them like a boat in the wind. They stand firm. They have paced their own rhythm of life. They don't text frantically, don't overreact, don't act needy, and women can feel that. According to a 2024 study by Psychology Today, women show the strongest physiological responses to alpha behavioral cues: slow eye movements, deep voice, steady speech rhythm, minimal body movement. Meaning, they're not captivated by words, but by the rhythm of the energy you emit. A man with grounded energy makes a woman feel safe without having to say much. Meanwhile, a man who lacks control, talks non-stop, and tries too hard to entertain makes her feel uneasy, even if he means no harm. So the real question isn't what you should say, it's whether you're living the energy you're trying to project. Because ultimately, attraction doesn't come from technique, it comes from presence, and presence can't be faked. Once you understand that, bro, you'll see the problem was never about learning another trick to win her over. The truth is, you don't lack technique. You lack substance. You've read the books, watched the videos, learned how to talk, how to text, how to impress, but you're not living what you preach. You talk about confidence, but deep down you panic when she goes silent. You say you have standards, but the moment she's beautiful, all those standards vanish. You say you don't need anyone, yet you can't sleep because she hasn't seen your message. That's why things never go far, because women don't connect through words, they connect through energy. And when your energy is empty, no matter how good you sound, she'll still feel something's missing. So ask yourself, bro, if you're not chasing her, what are you doing with your life? The question sounds simple, but it exposes everything. Because if your answer is I don't know, that's the root of your failure. Women are drawn to men who are walking their own path, men who don't need to prove anything, don't need validation, men with goals, with direction, with their own rhythm. They're rare. And because they're rare, they're valuable. Most men, however, orbit around women's emotions and forget the axis of their own lives. You want to be truly attractive. Start by rebuilding yourself. Focus on your health because a strong body radiates confidence. Build your finances not to brag, but to have the power of choice. Sharpen your social skills so you can lead, communicate, and stay grounded. Improve your body language, make eye contact, slow your voice, and deepen your tone. Each small change compounds and forms presence. From presence comes magnetism. Reframe yourself. I choose her, she doesn't choose me. When you live with that mindset, your energy shifts. You stop being the one who waits and become the one who decides. You stop begging for attention and start giving it selectively. That's the difference between a man who truly holds value and one who just learns techniques but never embodies them. Because at the end of the day, skills are just paint. Real value is the foundation. When you start living by your own values, bro, you'll realize something deeper, that the ones who truly get chosen aren't picked because they're perfect, but because they're rare. They don't chase anyone, don't try to prove anything, and don't strain for attention. She remembers them not because they spoke beautifully or looked handsome, but because they didn't need her to feel valuable. That kind of energy is so rare it's almost extinct in an age where men survive on validation. The top 1% of men stand out because they don't ask for attention. They radiate calm energy. When they care, they mean it, but they never invest emotions too early. They observe, they sense, and they keep a part of themselves private. They don't spam messages, don't ask do you still think about me, and don't rush to express feelings. They let silence have weight. They let her feel the need to maintain the connection. And it's that calmness that makes women remember them. Because in a world full of men desperate for attention, the man who needs nothing becomes the center of it. He makes her think, if I lose this man, I'll regret it. That kind of pull can't be learned from a few videos. It comes from experience, from inner abundance. The 1% man doesn't just know when to leave. He chooses to walk away when the energy is no longer balanced. And this, today, is known as the detachment game, the art of walking away at the right time, the highest form of attraction, not because he's emotionless, but because he understands that real attachment only matters when both sides respect each other's values. A man who knows when to pause and when to move will always earn respect, and that's exactly what makes women feel both safe and challenged, the intoxicating mix that keeps them hooked. She might have met hundreds of men who talk better, act smoother, but the one who haunts her mind is the man who never had to prove anything. He lives on his axis, and if she wants to walk beside him, she must adjust her rhythm to his. That's why the 1% are always chosen, not because they chase, but because they make others want to come closer. Then you realize, bro, this game was never about being chosen. Men don't need to be chosen, they need to be respected. Because the moment you want to be chosen, you've already handed your power away. But when you live by your own values, walking calmly, every choice begins to revolve around you. Don't try to get into the top 1%. Become the man she has to choose on her own. Because when you have a center, she'll have to adjust her steps to match yours. Beautiful women don't hate men. They're just tired of how predictable men have become. You want to stand out. Don't chase. Don't prove. Don't beg for emotion. Live with the axis. Have standards. Set boundaries. When you stand firm, the world aligns itself. When you're still, she finally sees you. But if you keep chasing, pleading, fearing loss, you're no different from all the others. You must understand attraction isn't about making her laugh. It's about making her respect you. When you don't react to drama, when you don't need to win every argument, when you can stay silent yet unshaken, that's when she realizes she's facing a real man. And if she walks away, so be it. Because real value isn't about keeping someone, it's about keeping your composure when they leave. So remember this, bro, keep your frame, raise your value, and live by your own standards. If she walks away, you're still you. That's what the real 1% have. Not the need to be chosen, but the strength to be respected. Because when you're calm enough, life itself will choose the right ones to stay.